All right, everybody, welcome into the teaching portion. If you didn't catch it before, my name is Chris, and if we've never met yet, I look forward to the day that we do get to meet. I haven't met many of the sixth grade girls. What's up? Glad you're there. Hope you're having fun at your house. But this is just a weird, different season. Like, welcome to fall 2020. Where I'm still making a video and you're at 6 different houses around Erie. Man, like when I finished this school year in May, I still had a glimmer of hope that when school started, it would not be like this. You know, I didn't expect that when this 2020 school year began that I'd still be making a video and you'd be in different backyards watching these videos. And I didn't expect that we'd have to have homes, that we wouldn't be all together in a big group. I love being together in a big group. And a part of me just looked to the future and was like, man, that was a hard season. Online ministry, you guys did online school. And it was just like, man, glad that's over. We can move on to summer. Hopefully, like, things will keep progression. And when we get to school, man, I hope it'll be different. And yeah, this thing continues to last. And personally, you know, I thought things would be back to normal by now. And I wonder if you've had that same feeling. I wonder if you've had that same thought of like, when are things gonna get back to normal? I can't wait till things get back to normal. And I think it's such a natural question to ask. In times like this, where some of us are afraid, some of us are confused, there's feelings of anxiety and anxiousness and fear, and I just want things to be sort of normal so I can feel like things are stable and in control a little bit, because things right now, even for me, seem a little out of control, not in my control, and I just have to wait and see what's happening day by day in the future. And it's interesting to me in these kinds of seasons that there's a couple tendencies for people to try and deal with the scenario. And the question to think into this situation is, am I doing something that is making my life more difficult in this season? Like, is the way that I'm responding making life for me and my family and those around me actually more difficult? Or am I setting myself up for success to travel through this season? And those two tendencies, there's a tendency to look back and romanticize the past. Oh man, do you remember January 2020, before this social distancing? Oh man, how life was so good. Or to put our hope in some future day that hasn't happened yet. Christmas 2020, New Year's 2021, you know, like Christmas, New Year's, New Year, New You, New Year, New World. There's gonna be no coronavirus. Man, I can't wait until I can celebrate Christmas with everybody and we can gather in big groups and those things. And that tendency, you look forward and you put your hope in a future date. And both of those practices, I think, set us up to actually make life more difficult. Thinking about these two tendencies reminds me of some stories from the book of Exodus. Our church just journeyed through a series where we walked through the book of Exodus together and we studied the stories. And as I was thinking about this reality, my mind went to how the Israelites went after God had freed them from slavery, and now they were journeying through the desert and the wilderness. They forgot how God was present and he cared and he was providing for them. See, let's remember the story and the context together. Like, imagine you're a group of people who fled to Egypt because they had food. And then your people found refuge there, like it was a safe place. And then a new Pharaoh, a new king came, and your people were growing and growing and growing, and Pharaoh became afraid, and so he enslaved you. And you became the workforce to build his empire. And Here's a picture of what it was like for them. So they, being the Egyptians, Pharaoh, put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor, and they built Pithom and Ramses as store cities for Pharaoh. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So the Israelites grew in number. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites and worked them ruthlessly. They made their lives bitter with harsh labor in brick and mortar and with all kinds of work in the fields. In all their harsh labor, the Egyptians worked them ruthlessly. The Israelites' life was miserable, and they did not have any choices of their own. They were the workforce that Egypt did not care about and worked sometimes to death. And the Israelites cried out to God and said, "When are you going to free us?" And God heard their cries and came and rescued them. Crazy miracles he did. And they eventually walked out of Egypt through this sea that was dry, and then that sea collapsed on their enemy, and they watched their enemies be engulfed by the waters, and then they were free. And the next day they woke up, and they were like in the beginning of a journey through a desert wilderness to the future that God had for them. And about a month into that journey, we get this picture where they're hungry, they're hot, they're uncomfortable, and they just forget how God provided. And then they forgot how God cared about them and how he was present. And they said, and then they began to romanticize the past. And here in Exodus 16, if only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you, Moses, have brought us out into this desert to starve. They get a month in, and they're in this desert wilderness, and they're like, gosh, this is hard. I do not like this. I don't, this is not what I expected. I don't want to be here in this future, and when is it going to end? I just feel like, and they begin to romanticize the past. And they said, we used to sit around pots of meat like it was a paradise, like they just got to lounge around. You just heard the picture of what their life was actually like. And then they're like, we just got to lounge around big pots of meat. We had all the meat we wanted to eat. And they build this false narrative in the past. It's so easy for humans to look back. When they're in the midst of something difficult, they look back and romanticize the past and build this false picture of what once was. And instead of getting angry, God actually provides this food on a daily basis for her. That next day, he provided what was called manna. And on a daily basis, this food that they did not have to do any work for showed up and provided food and sustenance for them on a daily basis, so that they would remember God is present, God cared for them, and he loved them, and he graciously gave them this gift. So, looking back, romanticizing the past was not helpful for them, and it's not helpful for us. And then I mentioned there's this other human tendency to look forward. And I heard something recently that made so much sense to me, and I think can help you and me navigate this season. The military trains its soldiers who have the potential to be in a prisoner of war situation. They train them to not put their hope in being home by a specific date or a specific time. They have noticed and they have learned that the soldiers who put their hope in being home by Christmas, being home by birthday, being home by what you name it, those are the ones, when that date doesn't happen, those are the ones who either don't make it or come back dramatically worse than the other soldiers. The soldiers who take each day by itself and go day by day are the ones who are able to journey through that horrific and painful experience better than those who put their hope in a specific future date. So if it's not helpful to look past, if it's not helpful to put our hope in some future date, what is something that you and I can do in this season that would actually help us navigate this season really well? And to answer that question, I want to go to Jesus's words and a story that he told to help us hear his ideas and to help us know what to push forward into in this season. Because all of us are in this season, and it's difficult in different ways for all of us. Like, school is different and difficult, and change is always difficult. Some of us, our parents' jobs are different. Some of us, our friends are different. We're more isolated than we were. Sports are different. There's so many different things in life that have changed. And we're in this place where we don't know how long this is going to go. And so what do we do today and tomorrow and the next day that can set us on a course to travel through this journey really well? And so Matthew 6, one of Jesus's most famous sermons, I want to take you to a piece there. So Matthew 6, starting in verse 25, Jesus says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or about your body, or about where you're going to go to school, or when you're going to play your sports, or when you're going to see your friends." Dad, those last three weren't on there, but you get the idea. What you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or stow away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? And why do you worry about your clothes? See how the flowers of the field grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. It is so natural in moments like these to worry. We just saw how the Israelites in times of uncomfortable and hot and unknown, and it's difficult, you just get to this place where you forget, and you get to this place where you don't see, and you start to worry, and you start to be consumed by fear, and you start to do these things, and it's natural. And Jesus is speaking to this thing, and he's like, worry and fear and anxiety do not have to be the normal thing that you experience. The new normal that you could experience is something different. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you, you of little faith? So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. He knows that we need them. But here it is. What do? But seek his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. So starting from the beginning or the end and working backwards, Jesus has this perspective that it's wise to take a day-by-day approach. In seasons like this, where worry is close by, it is helpful and it is wise to have a day-by-day approach. I can't control tomorrow, and I don't know what's going to come tomorrow. But today, what do I do today? And if you can look to your Heavenly Father, look towards Jesus, and say, okay, you care about me and you're present. I want to look towards you and I want to put my trust in you. Jesus, will you guide me today? Will you show me how you're present? Will you show me what to do today? Will you show me what today brings? And I want to follow you. Will you help me see how you're with me? And then I want to follow you and how you lead me. You could, in these moments of difficult times, you could look back. You could look forward and put your hope in something else. And Jesus is trying to get us to see, what if? What could life be if we looked if we got up in the morning and said, life isn't what I thought it was going to be. Life might not be everything that I was hoping it would be. But today, Jesus, what do you want for me? What do you have for me? I want to look towards you. And I want to follow you in what you have for me to do today. And it seems like Jesus is saying, there will be something different that you're characterized by. Worry will slowly drift away out of your life as you have this rhythm that Jesus is describing and calling us to. That if you put your focus and your trust and your hope in him and realize that he's with you, realize that he cares, realize that he knows your needs and wants to provide your needs and will provide for what you and your family need. Just focus on him and look to him every day. And life will begin to be characterized by what life looked like. And your life will begin to be characterized by less worry and more peace and contentment. So what would that look like for us? To follow Jesus' words and actually live life like this? And that's a question that I want to throw out into your groups for you guys to discuss.